have spoken a good amount on this channel about being bullied and the things that I was bullied for, but there's one shameful thing that I was horrendously picked on for in my teen years that I haven't been able to talk about because it's still for the longest time been considered so shameful online, and I didn't want the hate that it would surely bring. But you know, there's a time for everyone when you have to come out and say that's a part of who you are. And Robert Pattinson's playing fucking Batman now. Kristen Stewart's getting put up for big awards for Best Actress. And I feel like it's time to come out and say that, you know what? I really like Twilight. I'm not here to tell you Twilight's good. I'm not here to pretend that it's a good book series or a good film series or that anything about it was particularly well done outside of the casting, to a degree. But I did want to do just a little fucking info dump on Twilight, because I haven't talked about Twilight to people in many a year, like probably close to a decade, if not actually a decade. But you know what? The Twilight Renaissance is here. My love for Twilight never really went away. I was just shamed out of it. And I want to talk about Twilight. Now, I suppose I'm one of like the OG Twilight fans of the Twilight Renaissance, because I got into Twilight when it came out. I was living in Denmark and I thought it looked real good when I saw a little trailer for it, so I made my dad take me to see it in the cinema, and I was like, holy fuck, fucking Twilight. I just loved it from the instant I saw it, thought about it constantly, and I was like, Dad, I need to go and see that movie again. And my dad was like, there is no chance I'm sitting through that again. So why don't you go with your mum? So then I went with my mum to see Twilight. And again, I was just totally enamoured by it. There's been a few times when I've watched a movie a second time and been like, okay, I'm good now. Not with Twilight. I went to see it a third time on my own and I just adored it. But like I say, we were living in Denmark and I feel like it's sort of just widely known that in like 2008 to 2013-ish, fans were just cray-cray. Like, we were insane. We weren't mentally sound. It was just wild time. So being one of these young, just delusional fans, I don't know, my brain wasn't developed is what we're going with. But there wasn't any Twilight merch in Denmark. No one cared about this movie yet. It was just a film that had come out in the cinema and it had gone, you know? No one gave a shit. But over in Germany, they knew what was up. So I had my poor fucking father cross borders for me. This man crossed European borders for his teenage daughter to go and buy Twilight magazines. Just any magazine I saw in this place, I bought. And I was like, oh, Twilight. Covered my room in posters of Twilight. Kept reading bits about it, even though I did not understand German. I was just like, interesting. Having no clue what was going on. And as like the popularity of Twilight faded and became like the hated thing it was by the time like Eclipse came out, I like constantly was like, why am I so into it? Like I kind of don't want to be into it anymore. I don't want to like it anymore, but I still love Twilight even as everyone else moves on. And I had a whole discussion with my therapist a while ago where she was like, so were you ever like into vampires and stuff as a teenager? And I was like, oh honey, like my Twilight phase raged for years. And she was like, do you think maybe that's because it felt like the people around you were vampires that were like sucking your energy because they're not the people you should be around? And I was like, So I think honestly that's why I was into Twilight the first time around. But the second time around I'm into it because honestly, the fandom and the cast have made Twilight into something that it wasn't. You know, it was quite clearly made to be serious. Like, it was written in a very serious way. I did read all the books, by the way. There was a point when I memorised which page of Eclipse Bella punches Jake in the face on because I loved it. I was very much team anyone that isn't Jacob or Edward. You know, like I wanted to hang with vampires, just not that one because he seemed boring. I'm not the first to say this. Edward's the most boring fucking character in the whole thing. Like, you've got the vampire that went and wreaked havoc and revenge on her ex after they left her for dead, fucking Rosalie Hale over here being a baddest bitch. You've got fucking Alice that was like locked in a mental institution because she could like see the fucking future. Let's not go into Jasper because he was a Confederate soldier. The books were written by a Mormon. That's just how it be. Carlisle's running around fucking like saving people left, right and centre even though he's a vampire. Fucking Emmett's being strong or whatever his backstory was. I don't really remember. I don't know. And then you've got like the other covens. Like the Denali clan look cool as shit. I wouldn't mind seeing what Victoria was up to before you murdered her mate. Like personally, I want the deep dive into Rosalie. I want to see her full fucking life story. She's by far the most interesting of them. Like, it'd have to be tactfully done, but I wouldn't even mind seeing Jasper's backstory. You know, all the stuff with Maria when he first gets changed. He's like leading fucking newborn armies and shit. Why don't we get more of that? But at the same time, as a 13-year-old bitch that was living in a rainy, cold, horrible place, I was like, I can't wait for my vampire boyfriend to come and save me from the nightmare that I live within. But at the time, I think people forget how huge Twilight was. Like, we remember that it was everywhere, but I think people forget that there was like a huge community behind it, and it wasn't all just like the crazy ones, you know, it wasn't all just like middle-aged women with Edward's eyes tattooed on their back. Because I was a frequent inhabitor of Miley World at the time. Like, I was a huge Hannah Montana fan, okay? And I frequented Miley World. My dad had got me the little subscription for 1 year and assured me that he would not be spending money on an online subscription ever again because it's ridiculous. So I had this 1 year subscription to Miley World and I intended to use it for all it was goddamn worth. So I was on that site 24/7 and it had like a chat forum feature, as many websites did of this era. God, the hours I spent in that place doing Twilight role plays with people. And looking back as well, I always wanted to be like a male character. I always wanted to be like Edward or Jacob or whoever they all lusted over. And at the time, I think I was kind of just like, I'm a tomboy, I suppose. No, honey, you're gay. But I think that's the thing that people forget as well, is that for a lot of us, Twilight was very much there in like our most developmental years. And I can't quite put into words why, but it just means so much to me. It's such a comforting place to be like, I know it's not a place, but when you're watching the movies, I get so absorbed in them that it is very much a comforting place for me to be in. And I can laugh at it and appreciate that they're not good movies. And I think that must be done to enjoy Twilight. I don't think you can go into Twilight wanting like a serious vampire film or romance or whatever you're expecting from Twilight. Like, you've got like fucking Hold On Tight, Spider Monkey, and I mean...
Is she even Italian?
Her name is Bella.
You've been lying to everyone. Charlie. Bella! Where the hell have you been, Loca?
You get me. I'm not saying that it's a good film, but I will say that I think the first two were made with all the best intentions. I think people were having fun, and I think that makes it enjoyable to watch. The Vinyl 3, it's sort of just like, well, I've watched the first two now, so I may as well get through it. All of the stuff with like the vampire pregnancy. Again, I will not be the first person to bring this up. So did Jacob just like Bella because like the egg he was gonna imprint on was already in her body? Like, did he actually like Bella? Or was he just waiting for Resume to pop out? You know? Which is it? He deserved to get punched in the face anyway. And you know what? Although I wasn't particularly interested in the wolves when I first delved into Twilight, as an adult, I want to see so much more of them. Like, Leah's the first female wolf, and we're not hearing anything about that other than like she doesn't like being a wolf because she has to hear her ex-boyfriend's thoughts about his perfect new partner. That's the only like thing going on in her world as the first female werewolf / shapeshifter, because they're not actually werewolves. Why did we call them like werewolves? Do we still call them werewolves? Is that part of the Twilight Renaissance too? I've slunk like more and more down in this video. I'm sorry, I'll sit like an actual human being. You know, I think at the very least, because I've very much been talking about the movies, and the best I can say for the books is that I think Stephanie Meyer took a whole new view and approach of vampires, you know? Not just in like that they're sexy, because that had quite obviously been done before. But, you know, she made them interesting again, didn't she? They're super fast and they've got, like, orange eyes because they drink animals and not humans. Isn't that interesting? And they've got sparkly skin for, like, no reason. And it's just, it's new, you know? It might not be good, but it's original. You've got to give her that. You know, the base of vampire that she was given, she's done something original with it that did start a whole boom of vampire literature for young girls, which I also heavily bought into. Thankfully, I don't care about any of them anymore, so you're not going to end up with like a True Blood or Vampire Diaries video. But Twilight Twilight hit me. It really hit at a time when like I needed something like that. And it was is a really comforting little series. You know, do they deserve the hate they get? I don't really think so. You know, like I can understand some of the hate. Some of the acting is a little touch and go. The effects are horrendous on fucking Risume. Fucking Nessie, fucking Loch Ness Monster over here looks like an actual fucking monster. Apart from it's an actual kid, I'm not trying to like shit on whatever like fucking 2-year-old they used in the movie. But they're like animatronic and the CGI ones, absolutely like the stuff of nightmares. You know, perhaps it is entirely nostalgia that's like keeping it rated somewhere for me. But I don't think it's that bad. The books are bad. I remember like underlining some like spelling mistakes and shit, and I remember just like some parts I was like, this dialogue's a bit like she's trying. You know, the books weren't great. The books weren't good. The books weren't even fine. But the movies have a charm. They have a charm, you know? I might not say they were good, but they're entertaining and they're comforting and they're fun. And, you know, I'm gonna be fucking like 60 and still watching Twilight every now and again. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear your Twilight thoughts and opinions in the comments. And let me know what any of your other guilty pleasures are. That's probably the only one that I am like genuinely a bit ashamed of. Everything else you can find out about me pretty easily, I think. I'm not guilty about much. I think we should be allowed to just enjoy ourselves. But Twilight's one of them where I'm like, is people gonna be mean to me? Are people gonna think I'm an idiot because I don't think Twilight's bad? Like, you know, I don't think it's good, but I do love it. But yeah, I've been talking about Twilight for 30 minutes now, so I've got to go and attempt to edit this. Meaning that whoever you are, wherever you are, I hope you're having a lovely morning, evening, day, afternoon, week, month, year, and I'll see you again in a few days with a video that's not about Twilight.